Likewise, likewise. So, just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. Recordings to this will be in the community. So, I will um, put a link. It's actually my website, lauraperry.com, to join the community. If you're not already in there, you can access the recording through the replays channel there. I'll also be providing you guys with a workbook that you can follow along with. So definitely, unless you can print it real fast, grab some paper and a pen so that you have the tools necessary to follow along. Also, I'm just going to jump right into the lesson, and then we will be moving into Q&A and just sharing a little bit so that everybody can learn from each other. So whoever wants to jump in at that time, feel free to, but otherwise, please just stay muted so that I can do the presentation and move you guys through the questions so that you can start 2025 strong. I did hold this workshop back in December and it was so effective. I decided to do it again. And it's the only other time that I'm doing it this year. So it has helped me tremendously. Because we're all about being in our spiritual nature, but there is something really magical about planning and looking at the big picture and really diving deep into what we want for our lives. And I feel like 2025 is a game changer for a lot of us. So we are going to put it in writing and also be very flexible by listening to ourselves. So I'm going to share my screen here. All right. So Crush 2025. So one of the outlines that I use to set my own goals is what I call SMART goals. I didn't create it, but it is very helpful. SMART goals are to ensure that our goals are specific. The more specific that we make our goals, the more grounded we can be and jump into the details. We oftentimes forget that the really big goals that we're trying to meet or desiring to meet are really they are broken down into smaller steps, and then we can actually achieve them better when we do that. So helping make the goal specific helps us better decide how to reach those goals in smaller steps. Also, not every goal is measurable, but the ones that are, definitely keep track and measure them, because again, it's those small incremental steps that add up to make the big goal. We also want to make our goals achievable. So I do recommend that you write down absolutely everything that you want to achieve for this year, whether it be whether you think it's far out there or not, because you're going to learn. A lot of this life experience and business building and personal goal setting, we learn so much just by navigating the journey. So, that's up for you to decide as to what is actually achievable for you. And I really feel like so many things are possible, but you don't want to set yourself up to let yourself down either. So just reflect on that. Also, we want to make sure that our goals are relevant. So these are your goals. These are nobody else's goals. This is what you want for your life, regardless of whoever else is in your life, because again, that will help you see where you want to go. And, if other people come along with you, great. Also, that they're relevant to your personal goals, maybe your physical health, maybe geographically you want to move. Um, and maybe they are very specific to the business that you're building, to etc. And also that they're time bound. So time is, I can go into the esoteric stuff and just talk about how it's an illusion, but time is a tool here in the physical world. So as we navigate our spiritual path and we're up in the ether for a while, we come back down and we're grounded, and then we say, okay, what do I want to do with my life and how am I going to get there step by step? And then lastly, just take a moment to reflect. I'm going to give you just a moment here before we move on to the next slide. What does goal planning do for you? Because some people achieve everything that they want without ever writing down a goal. And some people, it really helps them move forward. So we're just going to take a minute, just bring out your paper or pencil, or pen and just write down, what does goal planning actually do for you? Because it's not required, but we don't want to put any kind of stress under ourselves. We are doing things because they are helpful for us, right? So I'm just going to give you a minute to reflect on that. For those of you that are catching this recording, definitely pause and complete the assignments before you move on. So now moving on to the next slide. We want to reflect on our goals regularly. Now, if that means daily, I highly recommend that you do that daily. I look at my whole day and I generally will make some kind of plan for the day. Whether or not I have to get through a bunch of fuzzy thoughts in the morning or not, it just depends on the day. But since we are so in tune to following our own guidance, and that's what we want to be really following our own compass, our own navigation skills when it comes to aligning with our highest good in our life path. So I recommend that you reflect regularly at yearly, quarterly, monthly, and weekly levels, because the goals that I set for myself, they do pivot a little bit, and I allow them to do that because it's necessary. I want to do what I came here to do and what I'm here to do, and I think we all do. So reflecting is the key word here, and reflecting periodically. Another thing is to practice writing your goals in pencil so you can adjust them during your reflections. If you have a pen right now, it's totally okay. Just moving forward. And if you print out the document for the remainder of the year that I provide to you, I just highly recommend using pencil, because that is the importance of being flexible. We want to keep the vision of what we are creating and what we're doing, but we also want to allow our navigation skills to guide us. And that sometimes includes erasing. Some reminders before we get started is to be in trust and faith. This is really important. One of my 2025 goals for myself is to stop doubting, because doubt is heavy. It's a heavy energy, right? So I'm not doubting my abilities anymore. I'm not doubting what I'm here for. I'm not doubting whether or not something's going to work. I try to set that intellect aside and stay in trust and faith. And that is a way of being. So I don't question so much anymore. I'm just like, okay, here I am, right? So staying in trust and faith is actually, in my experience, has been so much easier for me than moving into self-doubt or, you know, being self-conscious or not being as confident. It's actually so much easier to just be in trust and faith. So that's a reminder as you move throughout the year. Feel into your guidance. Of course, sometimes we experience this as intuition. Sometimes it's a knowing for some of us, reflecting on how your guidance guides you and speaks to you, whether that be feeling. Sometimes it's external for some people. Every single one of us have our own guidance receptors and the way that we receive it. So really important as you move throughout the year to feel into your guidance as you are creating these goals for yourself. Of course, staying present. This is how we can sometimes notice our guidance and receive information in the now moment. Now, when we are thinking too far ahead and we are looking for something outside of the present moment, we miss everything that's right in front of us. And happiness is here, joy is here, the guidance that we're tuning into is here. Everything that we need is in the present moment. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't plan and set goals for ourselves and educate ourselves and learn and apply and implement, but there's so much that is right here, right now. And sometimes my guidance will say, write down your big picture, or my guidance will say, look at the details. My guidance will say, plan for the next 6 years. You know, that's what the importance of guidance is. And then staying present helps you navigate that. Move from the heart and from a heartfelt space. This is probably one of the biggest lessons that I've had of my life. As long as I am staying as heartfelt as I possibly can, I'm moving from my heart center through life. I'm not moving through my head anymore. And that has helped me tremendously. It's helped me become a more compassionate person, um, a person who has better boundaries. I want to say more caring, but I've always been very caring. But has helped me protect myself and also love others unconditionally and myself. So when we're moving from this heartfelt space, we show up differently. Stay in flow and ease and away from overwhelm or stressful thoughts. So, something that I notice about myself, and I'm sharing this with you guys, is anytime I'm going into overwhelm, I generally end up going into burnout. And I didn't realize for a really long time that that was an indication to my energy system that I wasn't listening to my guidance. So, overwhelm is we're looking maybe at a big picture that has a lot of steps in there. So, we want to come back down and look at one step or one detail at a time. Same with stress. We're not being present. Everything that none of the stress cannot live in the present moment, right? In order for us to move into stress, we're actually thinking about the past or the future. So anytime I'm feeling these negative energies, I realize that I'm not in flow and ease. And then I go back to the beginning of this list and I tune into my guidance. Trust me, and it's not worth recovering from burnout. So if that's something that you do, just remember that it's an indication from your energy system to just listen to yourself a little bit better. And mindfully balancing the structure and intellect with insight and flexibility. This is, I believe, the last slide here. Let me check. Oh, one more after this. So, structure and intellect, these are gifts that we get to hone in on and grow and fine tune in this human experience, right? And when we balance that with insight and flexibility, we are using our energy system as effective as we possibly can. There is structure and there is flexibility. Both of these things are important and both of these things apply as we navigate life and our goals and everything. So we just want to make sure that we're mindfully balancing those two. And lastly, enjoy the dance of being and doing. We are human beings. We do not want to spend 100% of our time in the being feminine energy. However, we want to make sure that we are balancing that with doing, the masculine energy of doing, and bringing that into a beautiful dance and a beautiful balance. And eventually, it's not really 50-50. We're doing both of these things. So when we're in a state of being, then we can uh, see what it is that we need to do. So this download here is what I'm going to share a link with you, and you can print it out later. For now, just write on your paper. That's the best thing to do. So we're going to take a moment and write down your 2025 goals. Now, I like to do my top three eventually, but I just want everybody to write down absolutely everything that you want to achieve this year. If we are sitting here in 2025, December of 2025, what would have you wanted to happen this year? And you're going to be perfectly happy with all of these things. So let's forward future pace a little bit. It's the end of 2025. What do you want this year to look like? And write down as much as you can because we can reduce these to your top three, but you don't have to. And remember, you can edit and adjust this as you go, which is highly recommended. Now, the sheet that I just linked to you guys in the chat as well has the top values and inspirations, projects, primary focuses, or the impact that you want to make this year. You can dive deeper into these questions after this workshop or during. It's totally up to you. But for now, what I would like you to do is look at the first 3 months of 2025. Now, the way that I do my goals, I actually set up my year into 4 different years, or to 4 different segments, rather. So instead of having one whole year, I look at a quarter as a year. And I say at the end of quarter 1, so this means by March, January, February, March 30th, what do I want to have achieved within these 3 months? This helps me understand that there's a lot more than I can do with time than looking at it in a whole year. So by the end of March, this first quarter, what would you like to have accomplished or achieved? And that's a hard deadline for me. I say hard, but then, if it takes me longer, it's okay. Or if I have to move it to a different quarter, that's okay. But what would you have liked to accomplish by March of this year, end of March? You're prioritizing here a little bit. It's 30 more seconds or so because we're going to see who wants to share after this, and it'll help you dig a little deeper. All right. Now it is January 8th, 2025. You have almost a whole month ahead of you, minus a week. What do you want to have accomplished by the end of this month? If you look at the quarterly goals, it will help you decide. Look at those first quarter goals. And remember, these can be personal goals, these can be business goals. All ships rise with the tide, which means when we accomplish things in one area of our life, every area improves. So it's January 31st. Looking back at the entire month, what are you going to feel really good about achieving or completing or starting or finishing? All right, let's move on to the next. So, this is how I set up my goals. I open my goal planner here, which I actually created from scratch because I was not able to find anything that even that helped me in the ways that I wanted to. So I created this so that I could look at the weeks as the smaller steps within the month. And then I even, like I said, look at the days within the smaller steps within the week, so that I can actually break all of these big goals down into bite-sized chunks. Remember, again, it's those small steps that add up. So I have my weekly goals here. We are past this week, of course, but I set my weekly goals. I can write out anything that I'm able to measure. At the end of the week, I write out any outcome the outcome that I would like to achieve by reaching that goal, and then the reflection. that I have by just looking forward or backwards to the week. Now, this is up for you to use as it nurtures you and your journey. So I find that these are helpful for me, but however you want to use the measurement or the outcome or the reflection is totally up to you. However, a lot of my goals are smaller, or a lot of my goals are big and they are just chunked down, right? So I might not see an outcome for a while, but I really love looking at what do I want the outcome of that to be. It kind of helps me understand a little bit if it's worth my time and my energy, right? Because we are using our energy and our time in everything that we do, our focus, all of that. So we get to choose. We have the free will, which eventually aligns with our destiny if we're not aware of that yet, to accomplish what it is that we're set out to do and fully align with our purposes and our passions. So use this however you would like to. And now we're just going to go on to this is the second week of January. So you have until January 12th, till the end of the week. What would you like to accomplish this week? You've got the rest of the day today, of course. And if you're not sure, what's one step that you can take to accomplish one of the bigger goals? Just give you a minute here. Again, if you're just popping into this workshop, the recording can be found in the community of the Global Soulpreneur community. The link is in the chat. So you can catch the entire thing as well as this printable PDF. All right. Again, I highly recommend that you continue after this workshop to fine tune any details that you want to lock in for the day. But to protect the time that we have, I just want to give you a couple pointers as well while we move forward. At the end of every week, I do reflect and just make sure that I'm feeling what I'm doing. You know, again, we want to stay on our path, and that means really listening to ourselves. So I'm going to highlight to reflect maybe every day, at the end of every week. If you're feeling yourself move into stress and burnout, then your energy system is trying to tell you something. So just remember this reflection is huge. Now, this goal planner is set up to go through every week. I actually printed it on double-sided paper. So that was just easiest for me. I didn't want a big workbook. I just wanted something that I could put in a very small binder. And this is what I use. I just use a binder that looks like this. I got it on Amazon. Um, and I gave it a cool little cover. This is for the Soulpreneurs Global community here. But it just says 2025 plan. And every week I just open this at the beginning of the week and decide, you know, what is it that I want to do? So that's what I recommend doing here. I also have entered in my Google Calendar the to plan my week. I do that on Mondays usually. Really just figure out what works best for you. I always also plan my month. It really just depends on what you're doing. I use this for my business goals specifically. So I will I believe it's like the third week of January or something on a Monday and a Tuesday. I really just figure out what do I want for February. And I write that in here as a draft. So again, it has to work for you. This is your journey. This is your method. This is just a tool that you get to use in whichever way you want. I do recommend that you at least put quarterly goal uh, goal setting on your calendar, and this, I believe, yeah. So at the end of March is the quarter. Of course, April is the next quarter going forward. So I would just put in your calendar to review your quarterly goals, whether you use Google or whatnot, and just use this weekly. So this is pretty much the planner. It's very simple, and it gives you the dates and everything. So, or I call it a workbook, I guess. So use it however you would like. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen here.